Yo, good morning and welcome to another episode of Road FS Detail Memoirs. I'd like to say surf's up, but I know surf is not too good there today. I checked the surf report. But anyway, my name is Jody Sedrick.
I'm Rod Puzey.
And the reason why we're talking surf is because we got our good friend Mel Craig, who's a surfer, business owner, and the guy that brought Revivify to the market here in the U.S. And so we're super excited to sit down with you.
Yeah,
thank you.
We're just super excited because our logos are so close. It looks like we designed them the same. I mean, it's like a red shield with an R off to one side. It's
that was really a trip. Yeah, I saw that at the Southern Detailers Conference.
Yeah,
that's from Taiwan, so don't put me in the middle.
Oh no, absolutely. We love it.
Dude.
We're all good with everybody's stuff. So Mel, this is we could probably go for 3 hours on this because you have some really cool background. So let's talk about where you started out and how you got where you're at.
Yeah, it's a topic that we could spend 4 or 5 hours on easily. The history that I have is sometimes I pinch myself to wonder what I've been and where I was and where I've come to today. And it's been historic, 47 years later, I go back to junior high school with my brothers, matter of fact, I was just on the phone with a couple of hot rod buddies of mine. And we were talking about how at 10 years old, it was 1967. I went to SEMA and it was 10 years old. I went with my brother and it was in Dodger Stadium parking lot. I'll never forget that.
Wow.
It was like, I don't know. The names were like the big names then were not even big names because these guys were just getting started. Guys like Vic Edelbrock, Dean Moon, Roy Richter. I mean, these were all speed dudes that were just making a name for themselves. And I was a little shit tagging on with my brother. And that's where my roots really started. My two brothers were detailing cars in the 1960s and they were hot rod guys. We come from a large hot rod family and my dad got us into cars big time. And in junior high school, I would help him on the weekends. In summertime, I would help him do cars. Hey, Mel, do the wheels, like $5, different,
For those of you that are
you're looking back then at detailing when there was no industry, it was, a lot. I talked to a lot of very successful businessmen today, a lot of my high-end clients, in fact, they all started out throwing a newspaper or mowing a lawn or detailing a car. It's like, it was just a way to make some extra cash. And even in my younger years, when I was detailing cars, I never looked at it as a career. Actually in 75, when I joined the US Army and got out in 79, I didn't know what I was going to do. All I knew is the Army was going to cover my college tuition. So I went to San Diego State University. And although I didn't finish, I went for 3 years. But in 1980, I was scouted out by Hershey Chocolate Company and had an opportunity to go to work for corporate America and ended up declining. I sat down with my dad and he said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to go into detailing full time. And he looked at me and said, you're going to clean cars for a living.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm looking at 47 years later and there's a lot of history in the auto detailing industry and it goes back to where there was no industry, the things that we started out with, what we had to do to clean a car. I mean, basically we would drive to like Pep Boys and buy some supplies off the shelf and then take them with us and either detail cars in my dad's shop or go mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we started. It was interesting. We didn't have access to any of this, look what it is today.
Oh, I know that. I think that's funny is because there was a conversation a couple of weeks ago where somebody was saying, are we really an industry? I mean, do we call detailing an industry? And I'm like, I'm like, dude, if you had as much gray hair as I do, and you went back to the days when it really was somebody, there's some there. When it really was somebody standing on a street corner with a bucket, and it really wasn't an industry. I'm like, you have an organization, you have bylaws, you have rules and ethics. Of course it's an industry.
And it's a big industry. Yeah.
And I think it's
dollar industry.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say is there's the money that's generated by it now where it's not just like your dad said, you're going to wash cars for a living. It's like, well, hell yeah. That's what people do. I mean, people have $1 million shops set up just to detail cars. And you know, by the way, you younger folks that didn't understand any of those names like Vic Edelbrock or something, look up on Google. You'll see them. They're good guys. They
go back to these are all the original hot rod guys.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
All into speed. Anything they could do to make the car go faster. That's what their key component was. That was their hot button. You know, let's try to make them go faster. And that's what it was. You know, it's funny. We're talking about the history of detailing. It was I would say a good 30 years into my career before we really start to see the industry develop. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go on record to say this because he really deserves the accolades, because I saw something in 2007 happen, and I knew the day I met this young man that we were about ready to see a game-changing thing and that there was an industry being developed. And that came out of Meguiar's, a young guy named Jason Rose.
Yep.
And he walked in my shop. This was 2000 and I think it was 2008. He walked in my shop and you know, I didn't know who he was or anything. He didn't make an appointment. He just showed up, you know, and it was cool. He came in to share with me what Barry had told him to do. Him and Barry had sat down. I think Jason had a hot button to try to develop something a little differently. And Barry and Jason decided, instead of just making chemicals and shoving them down our throat, you know, take it or leave it. If you don't like it, don't use it. We don't care. Barry and Jason came to the conclusion that, well, why don't we start meeting some of these higher end guys and ask them what they need or what they're looking for? And I was really impressed when Jason asked me that question. And when he showed up at my, you know, in my shop and we started talking, I was like, are you kidding right now? I got a lot to share with you, you know? And I think that was a key turning point where we actually started to see the industry start to change, because now you have a manufacturer who had money, the financial structure, the infrastructure to actually pull that off.
Right.
And Jason was the key player in that overall start. And it was so ironic because Jason, another guy, Paul Weidler, Jason, Paul, and I used to sit in my shop, you know, after 5 o'clock when the cars are done and finished, and we'd sit and open a couple beers, and we'd literally just sit and play and test and try this and try that. How does this pad work? How does that pad work? And in 2009, I had the opportunity to fly over to Europe and meet Paul Dalton. And the reason I went over to meet with him, you know, he was the company's called Miracle Wash, really interesting guy. And I wanted to find out why he was going from our big, you know, for all my career, back in a lot of these guys don't know that back in my day, we had one tool and three 14-inch, and you literally screwed them onto the DeWalt. There's a pain in the butt, but you know, these were big pads, and they did get a little smaller. We were down to, I think, 11 and 14-inch pads. And this guy, Paul Dalton, started talking about how he was cutting these pads down to like 5 inches. End of story. Look what happened. Look where we are now.
Yeah, exactly.
So many changes have taken place, you know, since that day Jason Rose walked into my door. He deserves the accolades. I mean, he really did make a statement, and I don't think anybody really knows that story. It's kind of cool.
I love that, because I think about you know, when Rod and I created RotaFest. I mean, we created our company in 2009, we brought RotaFest to the Mobile Tech Expo in 2010, right? And we were the only software player in there except for one other one, right? And we were outside in a hall.
Yeah.
It was really a PDR expo, right? And we're there and we're like, guys, you need software. And these guys back in the day were like, I don't need software for my business. I don't need technology. I don't need systems, right? It was all about, what do I detail? How do I attract the attention of not only my customer, but show off to all the other detailers? And it's really interesting to watch that evolution since, you know, us 09. So,
you know, Jody, you say that back then, but I'll be honest with you, you know, it's a lot of these detailers are wondering why they're broke, why they're not making money. Month to month, they barely make a living. And it's because they don't want to do what you just said, even to this day. They think that the next new tool or the next new pad or the next new chemical, you know, or that next car getting into the shop is where they're going to make their money. And God, if they would just wake up and realize that there's a lot more to it than, you know, a machine, a pad, or, you know, another car coming into your shop. You know, you can work 7 days a week, 14 hours a day, and be broke. And that's the end of the story.
And there's people that are doing it. So let's talk about, because some of the innovations that have come up, and I know the thing right now with Revivify, when we talked to you at Mobile Tech Expo and how excited you were when you saw that product, talk about that when you first saw that product and where you see it going.
A lot of people in the industry make a lot of, when you become a leader, my name is known all over the world. And when you become a leader, you bring the haters and the people that love you.
Yep.
A lot of people have said a lot of bad things about me when it comes to jumping ship or moving from company to company. But the reality was what I was doing is educating myself. I'm a businessman. I'm not stupid. And, trying Modesta, trying Ceramic Pro, trying IGL, trying G Techniques, all these different coatings. When they first arrived here in 2010, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I was the very first person to use ceramic coatings in the US. And that was with NanoShine technology, which is today's Ceramic Pro, and Dr. G with Optic Coat.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was interesting because I really saw something there. And growing those past 8-9 years in the ceramic coating industry, watching the ceramic coating business grow, it really evolved into two things that I see. And that's the manufacturers over marketed the product. I think back in the day, if you remember, one of the companies was taking a cigarette lighter and you banged the hell out of the car.
Yeah.
And then so what happened was retail consumers were going, hey, watch this. Look what I can do to my car. They bang the hell of it, wipe it out, and go, oh, God, it didn't work,
Yeah.
And so we had to kind of muddle through those first few years of those type of demos and things like that. And it evolved into the point where too many of the manufacturers, I think it's too easy. The manufacturers have made it too simple for somebody to just pick up the phone, answer a couple questions over a telephone, and wham, they make you an applicator. They don't do any background check. They don't know if this guy's even any good at applying it. So I don't lay blame on the manufacturer at all, because I think the ceramic industry is obviously these coatings are way better than waxes and sealants. They've been a game changer, and they'll stay a game changer. But I think what's happened is the manufacturers are allowing too many, inexperienced people to get their hands on these coatings, and they're not applying them correctly. And so these consumers today that are buying a ceramic coating are spending, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to get their car coated. And in some of my speaking engagements, and when I meet some of these people, say, Mel, I did that ceramic coating on my car. It cost me $2,000. I wouldn't do it again. And I don't think it has anything to do with the ceramic coating. It probably has to do, going back to, isn't it true that it's probably, user error? The person that actually applied that coating on that car probably didn't do it correctly, or possibly put it on too thin. So that particular customer or consumer didn't get the results they were looking for.
Yeah. Right. And it comes to expectations too. What's the expectation? Have you built it up that this is going to be the fix all for everything? You're going to bring in this totally beat up car, and when it leaves, it's going to look brand. You can't oversell what it is.
You got to tell your customer, look, there's nothing. We drive shiny objects down the 405 freeway. And I don't know if you know the 405, but it's under construction right now. There's rocks and boulders and nails, and you name it. They're all over the freeway. And there's nothing on the market that's going to make our cars bulletproof. You got to let the client know that. Yeah. But the reality is and again, I go back to what you just said was, the expectation has to be set. And I think the manufacturers in the early days, scratch resistant, chip resistant, all the things they said, weren't really, I'm not going to say weren't true, but it didn't really hold up to that level. Whereas film really has made a mark in the industry.
Yeah.
Paint protection film has really provided a level of paint protection that, is amazing. I started doing film back in 1998.
Wow.
And it's really changed. That's a whole nother topic. But going into Revivify, it's interesting because, as business owners, all of us, and this is in every industry, it's taught at every Ivy League school in the world. In order to be a great businessman, in order to own a successful business, we always are looking for the best way to outperform our competitors. And there's only really two ways to do that: either offer a better service or offer a better product. And I think I started looking in the market for the new hot button that I was seeing these past 4 years was the self-healing aspect. That was coming out in film as well. So it wasn't something, I was chasing after. It was a hot button of mine. I thought, this self-healing, does it work? Is it really good? And I'm not going to say any names here, but I tried a few and they didn't work. They performed, but not to the point where I really got that excited. And it wasn't, I didn't want to go out of the frying pan into the fire, and I didn't see it. And it was actually a couple guys up in Canada that turned me on to the product. And that's how I got started. I got it sent to me, and again, the self-healing was the big hot button for me. And once I started using the product and started, finagling my way through how to do this, I just got more excited and more excited. And if we fast forward to today, it's not me any longer that needs to market Revivify. It's not our applicators. It's our customers now that are boasting and posting. And I've never seen customers send so many referral business in all my career, 47 years. And trust me, I've dealt with a lot of chemicals and products and have been a tester for a lot of these major brands, but I've never seen a single individual product be such a game changer. And the only reason I say that is because it's really our customers that are going to tell the story. We can brag all we want. Manufacturers can market all they want. Applicators can sell all they want. But the bottom line is, if it's not received and accepted by the consumer who's using the product, who experiences it on a daily basis, that's the telltale sign of a great product or a failed product. Either way you go. It's the same with compounds and polishes. And I mean, as well as I do, everybody and their grandmother now has a ceramic coating. And if everybody stays focused, what's the definition of insanity? Keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. And I think these chemists don't just sit around and do nothing. These, they're little round glasses, they're pocket protectors, they're little beakers and little fires, and all their little powders. When not many guys have been in a lab. I've been lucky to be experienced to be inside labs where they take these little powders, and mix them in a milkshake machine. You go, hey Mel, try that, and then you go back and forth until you come up with something that truly works. And I think the chemist in Taiwan who developed Revivify, he really got on the right track. And his focus was more along the lines of, well, if paint protection film is so great and it's really a key winning product in the market today, I'm going to chase after that. So it's like the crowd of people, everyone going this way. But the chemist in Taiwan said, well, if everyone's going that way, what's going on over here? And that's the direction he went. And his development of this 9 years ago was actually a spray application of paint protection film. And he learned early on that there was no way that was going to work because nobody has a paint booth. And it took several years. And 5 years ago, he finally launched Revivify as a hand applied coating. And when I first started 2 years ago, there was, I think, 4 countries. Today, there's 57 countries.
Wow.
And thousands of applicators. I've never seen a product grow so fast and so quick. We're definitely not the biggest, and I'm just a US distributor. I'm not US, my name carries a lot of weight, I guess, but it's been interesting to watch the growth. But more importantly, the interesting part of it is watching consumers that are experiencing a level of performance they haven't seen in the traditional ceramic coating category. And again, I don't say there's nothing wrong with ceramic coatings. I've been doing them forever. I still have a couple ceramics in my shop. It's just chemistry, everything evolves. Technology evolves.
Yeah.
You're now seeing the next generation in levels of paint protection coming to fruition. Now we're seeing something that's changed. It's going to evolve. We're not the first. We're not going to be the last. It's going to evolve even more. I really thought it would come from the manufacturer side. I really did. I didn't think it was going to come in the form of an aftermarket product, but it has, and it is a game changer. It's an amazing thing to watch this grow and watch this. Even in my own shop, to see customers come back for their annual or biannual checkups, and I'm looking at their car, and finally. It's like my heart is like, finally, a product that does what it says it can do. And that's volumes.
Yeah. And I think
that answers your question. I didn't
that was perfect.
I didn't come onto your show, to promote Revivify. I came onto your show because you invited me. And I think the historic part of the entire industry, it's funny because I am a trainer, and every night during training week, when I lay my head on my pillow, I really, truly ask myself, am I giving these students the best I got? Think about a student, and you learn after years when you become a trainer or a leader in the industry, when these men or women come to me, we don't know their backgrounds. It's an online thing. They sign up, they call in, they give us their credit card. The first time I meet them is the first day of class. I don't know their backgrounds or anything. I get to know that later. And I'm going to tell you guys something. It's amazing. Some of these guys will beg, borrow, and steal to get to that training class. Yeah. They have money. They're barely making ends meet. Their wives are pissed at them because they actually paid $5,000 to go to a Mel Craig training. What are you, out of your mind? What are you doing? And when you think about that for a second, just really take that to heart. How important now is it for me to give that guy everything he deserves and needs so that he can go take care of that wife and those kids?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Responsibility that is on my shoulders that I have to carry. If I'm really morally and ethically straight, I carry that responsibility big time. I want my students to succeed. They need to listen. They need to understand that, you can't just show up at training and do something and walk out the door. There's a lot involved in training and becoming a real professional trainer. And that's part of it. And that's really the biggest thing in my career these past several years is 8 or 9 years is really getting into these guys' heads and letting them know there's a lot more to this industry to making an income than cleaning a car.
Yeah.
If you think about it for a second, I had a student at a big seminar I did. I had a student stand up in the middle of the crowd, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. It hit and resonated with me big time. He said, "Mel, we're not NASA sending a man to Mars. We clean cars for a living." And when you think about that statement and you can simplify your business and start running it like a real business, you're going to see true success.
Yeah.
And that's there's no doubt in my mind that that's all you have to do is realize that. And the second thing is, if you really want to have success in car care, you need mentors. Don't think I have 5 guys on my board of advisors because I have the Detailing Pros license program, Revivify. I have some pretty large organizations, and a lot of people depend on me giving them straight and honest information. And my 5 guys, these are multimillionaires. 3 of them are my clients, and 2 of them are 2 of my great friends. They're all retired, very successful businessmen. And I don't make a move without them. I literally, anytime I make a decision for my business or for Revivify or for the Detailing Pros license program, I don't make that decision unless I make that phone call. And sometimes I don't like what they tell me, but they have my best interest at heart. Yeah. And some of these detailers, they have to swallow their pride. They have to put their egos aside and reach out and start realizing that they can't do it on their own.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really, really important thing. And I think a lot of times what happens is they get into the industry, they clean a car and they spend 6.5 hours and it looks great. It looks better than anything they've ever done. And that helps build that ego. But then you go into that, and then 6 months later, you realize I can't take 6.5 hours to clean this car. I've got to do this. This is a business. I've got to make it look that good in a shorter amount of time so that you can turn it into a business. And I think people get stuck at certain levels. Somebody gets stuck at that level of, I took this much time and it looks great. And that's the person that's marketing to the other detailers. And then some people get stuck on just the business aspect and they lose that passion for the car. And they're just like, it's in and out, baby. It's in and out. How many can I get in and out? And that's the guy that you see as soon as there's a downturn, I'll do the whole thing for $100. And I think you've got to have a balance there. And I think some of the guys that you mentioned, the Jason Rose and I mean, Jason is a fabulous guy. We were just actually at the training center, the Rupes Training Center in the spring. Yeah, he's still developing. He's still innovating. What can I do next?
Pushing himself.
He showed us a product that hasn't even come out yet, and we got our hands on it and got to test it out. And they're testing some really, really awesome stuff. And I love the innovation, because I love being able to look back, like you said, when I had a 12-inch and a rotary, and I remember when you had to tie the pad on, it had a little string and you tied it on the back of the thing, right? And if you did it wrong and it'd spin, oh my God. So just the innovations of where we've come to and the speed at which you can now get the same result. And I think that's what the greatest thing is I can get a result out of this. And let's be honest, manufacturers are getting worse and worse at the quality of their paint. The paints are thinner, they're uneven. You can take a brand new,
bad epidemic.
Yeah, you can take a brand new car and you can go around panel to panel to panel, and you get a different thickness all over. And so the idea that we're going to get that super deep gloss and that super great shine out of every car, you're not. Every car that is mass produced is not up to the same standard. So I think that's the whole thing, is not just expectations for your customers, but expectations for you. You've got to learn. Go to we tell people all the time, go to trainings. I see all the time on social media, hey, I'm just starting out, I'm 17-year-olds, what should I do? And I'm like, you need to get some training. Go learn from somebody, because the real trainers, the ones that really are passionate about teaching, want those students to learn and get there faster than they did, right? I mean, you want your students to get there in less than 47 years, because that's the whole goal, right? It's to have them walk away and go, oh my God, this was the greatest thing I ever did. This is going to enhance my business.
The thing that really, as I was listening to you talk about not only the journey that the industry has taken, but your passion of feeling the weight of being a trainer. And as I was listening to you, I was thinking about a conversation I had at Southern Detailers Conference with Jamie Gonzalez with J&G Recon down in Salt Lake. And he's like, man, I never miss an opportunity for training, because I'm always looking for a way to elevate my game as a person, my game as a business owner. And if I know that I can do that, it will propel me towards my goals. And last week, I had the great opportunity to go down and sit down with one of our customers. And it was interesting, as I sat down with him and I sat down with his grandson, who is his partner. He's like, you know what? I don't know what I don't know. We've always done it this way, and I'm not sure how it's going to work. And once I sat down side by side with them and I said, all right, look at your whiteboard. This is what we're going to do in the software. And I walked step by step, and all of a sudden he goes, oh, I see it.
Yeah, there you go.
And you need that I see it moment.
That light bulb goes on.
Yep.
Rod said something, and I really want to highlight this really big time, because you hit it perfect, Rod. Was, what detailers today have to understand is there's what's called profit in the business world. They don't really realize, in order to call yourself successful, you can be making $500,000 a year. But if you're spending $500,000 plus 500,000, you're broke. What your job is as a professional businessman is to get your expenses and your time way down, and your value and your dollar way up. And in between is profit. If you take too long and you're spending too much money and you're not creating that value to get the money you want, all of a sudden you're upside down. You're losing money every single month. And it's funny. I share this with students all the time. Time is of the essence. You don't necessarily have to be a great paint correction specialist. You don't need to know every tool, how it works perfect. You don't need to know every pad or every chemical. What you do need to know is technique. And just because everyone does it this way doesn't make it right. For example, NASCAR. If you take NASCAR, the engineer, the owner, the driver, and the pit crew, they meet all the time, constantly meeting and training. Why? They want to shave 1 second off of their time in any chance they can. 1 second. And yet when I train detailers to wear Kevin Davis's detailer's helper belt, just that one belt will start to shave time off of their work. And if NASCAR wants to shave 1 second off of their race time, what does that mean to them? That means a could potentially multi-million-dollar win.
Yeah.
And that's how important it is to learn that it's not necessarily how well you or what machine or what pattern you have, but how well you use it. What are the techniques? Are you on your hands and knees at the bottom of the car, standing up, going back and forth? Or do you understand that one-handed technique that I teach? I mean, there's so many techniques to get your speed down. The detailer's helper belt, retractable extension, everything that I do in my shop is built for training. And I design that shop so that it can show the student how to cut your time down on every car you do. That creates profit. That's what these guys really need to learn and understand. You can see my passion. I'm very much Their success is, Ron, Jody, their success is our success.
Absolutely.
The more successful these guys become, the more people are on your show. And, by the way, I go back, Paul Weiler and I had I think it was the original podcast. I don't know if you guys remember that. We did Ted Delopoulos wrote a book on podcasting, and I was in that book. That was back in, I think, 2004, 2005, when podcasting was first birthing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Paul and I grew that show. I think there's like 30, 40 countries listening. And it just took a lot of work. And eventually in my moving and things that I've changed in my career, I just didn't have time to continue to do that. So I applaud you guys, because this is the kind of venue that truly can change. There's people listening right now. And what I mean by that, when I'm saying there's people listening right now, there are people going, wow, this guy's making sense.
Yeah.
Wow, I gotta check into this. There's more to this than I thought. When they hear guys like you speak, we're old timers, you guys. We've been around the block. These are a lot of the guys want to share information amongst each others, whereas you should be reach up to the leadership. You don't want to reach sideways, which is not bad. I'm just saying, but reach up to the guys who really have been around the block, that know their stuff. You can call me an old guy, but and that I'm old school. Yeah, I'm old school. It's funny. I can't train a lot of my students. I cannot teach them what I used to do. And the only reason is because none of that exists anymore.
Right. Yep. Right.
But the foundation that the three of us have, the foundation that we have, is what we are teaching. And that goes back to the roots of this industry and where it came from.
Yeah. And the thing is you wouldn't teach them those techniques, right? When I was working in car restoration in the 80s, and I was doing we would do some stupid crap today that you just don't even do, but you'd take a single stage urethane paint, and it came out of the booth hours ago, and you're hitting that sucker hard with a rotary, and you wouldn't do that. You don't train that anymore. You go, okay, when it comes out, you're going to use something that's nice and soft, and it's the paint's fresh, and it's a different technique. I think it's valuable to have that, because when you go forward with it, you can help them understand the advantage that we have today over the way we had to do it before. And I think that's the greatest piece. I mean, we look at stuff like the rotaries and the way the paints used to be, and you're like, yeah, but now you have, if you get a paint job that's a repaint, like a hot rod, I'm super passionate hot rod guy. You get a repaint that's a hot rod, and I've got 3 full coats of clear. This is a blank canvas. I can do whatever I want. I can wet sand this thing. I can get all the orange peel out. I can make it look really, really good. Brand new car comes off the lot, Volkswagen Jetta, mid-range car. You are not hitting that thing. You're not wet sanding that. You got to be careful with it. So I like to take that experience that we have and say, look, this is how you can go forward with that, because eventually somebody's going to run into that. They're going to run into a repaint. Jody and I were doing a training in Utah, and it was it was in 2019. It was a brand new Dodge Durango 2019. And I got on the front fender and I went, whoa, everybody stop. This is a repaint. And they said, no, this is a brand new car. We just got it off the rental lot. And I said, there's not runs in brand new cars. I can see a tape line. This is a repaint. We started hitting it with a paint gauge. Holy crap. It was insane. Just the difference between the front of the fender and the back of the fender. I'm like, somebody went to Mako. Okay. This was not a good paint job. So I love the fact that you're passionate about the training more than just the products, because the products are just a result of how you apply them. You can take a mediocre coating or a mediocre polish, and you can get a phenomenal finish out of it if you're the right guy, right? And I think that the training and the techniques and what you do with it is more important than necessarily the brand you use. And everybody has their favorites, and some perform better, like you said, than others. And I think that's important too. But I love the passion you have. I love the passion that the guys that our generation has. The Jason Roses, the Rennie Doyles, the SB3s, the Barry Thiels of the people that are older that have gone through the trials and tribulation of this industry, growing up in it.
Yeah, it's been a great career, and I wish my career on everybody. I think what Jody said about you don't want to wait 47 years to have it. And the cool thing about when you get the right training, and there's a lot of people out there that offer training that you guys know as well as that should not be training. And the listener, that all your listeners out there, anybody who's participating in your show, you need to really press that message home big time, because there's a lot of people, my business coach a long time ago told me, she said, Mel, those that can't do, teach. And there's a lot of these guys who could never make a living, detailing a car, and yet they're now becoming trainers. And I see it all around me, and to this day, here I am, 65 in a couple of weeks. I'm still doing cars, you guys. I have a real working shop. When students come to my training, they come to a real working shop. It's not a classroom setup. When these cars roll through the door, they see me interacting with the clients. Then they train the second and third day. They actually start interacting with the clients. I train them in a real working environment. And this is where you really learn what it's all about, and how difficult it can be to make a living in car care. This is a business. If business is easy, everybody would do it and there wouldn't be any money in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can convince your wife and tell your wife, I'm going to make, just think if I just do 10% of the cars in our city, it's like, oh my God, wake up. There's no
of the cars.
Yeah.
Dude,
if I just work 23 hours a day, I could make a living,
If I just do this and I just do that, I'm going to have this. And if you want to be a great doctor, you go to a good medical school. You want to be a great lawyer, you go to a good law school. You want to cut hair, go to cosmetology school. You want to be a contractor, you got to go through a journeymanship program. You want to be a detailer, you can go to Home Depot, buy a bucket and a sponge and a garden hose. You can go to the detailing shop down the street and buy some supplies. Go to FedEx, have a business card and call yourself a professional on that card. And hence, you're now in the competitive market. Yep. But that's not going to make you the professional that you truly want to be, and it's not going to make you an income that you truly want to have.
Yes,
I love that.
Agree.
So,
agree 100%.
So how do you, obviously we could keep going. But I really appreciate you taking the time. I also really appreciate.
I couldn't believe you guys asked me to be on the show. I was honored. I was very happy to be invited.
We're so excited. And the highlight for me, the whole episode was amazing, but I didn't know that story about Jason Rose. And, it just really reemphasized what an impact he has had on the market. So a second shout out to Jason Rose. Thank you for all that you do for the industry.
He was I tell everyone, it was a game changer. That was, I'm pretty sure it was 2007 when he walked in my door. Might've been 2008. And I knew I inside, there was nobody really to share it with, but inside I was thinking, oh my God, if this really happens and this company, Meguiar's, does this, and Jason continued to just roll through with Meguiar's and started calling on and end of story. And that's when we really saw the dynamics of the industry start to change. We've always been behind other industries, always.
Yeah.
And now we seem to be on the forefront, and really this is an industry now. And a lot of guys make very healthy incomes.
Yeah.
I've got students that, they're making $500,000 to, 1.5 million in their own prospective shops, and so proud of them. And they're profitable because they've got the right training. And a lot of these guys come back for advanced training and things like that. They stay honed into their game. But awesome. As well as I do, 90% of all the detailers out there are flat broke. And if they don't open up and realize they've got to make some changes and start reaching out, they're just going to stay in that boat, and it's going to sail to nowhere.
Yep.
Sad
Absolutely.
So how do people get in touch with the Detail Pros and you with Revivify?
Well, you can go to teamrevivify.com. You can go to the detailingpros.com, and you can call my office at 714-795-2983. You can call my personal cell phone, 760-803-1955. I take all the calls. I don't have people that, screen my calls or anything. I try to take as many calls as I can. I've got 6 leaders, Darren Hosking and David Rottenberg, Jason Caruthiers. I got some great leaders on my team that if I can't take these calls, that, I can make sure that, they get the help they truly need from some of these other guys who are on my team. And I back them up 100%. So yeah, just go to teamrevivify.com, detailingpros.com, and look up all the stuff that I offer and what I do. And it's not about trying to get a student or a customer or anything like that. Just, hey, a lot of guys just they don't have the money right now. And maybe they're starting their research. And I'd love to guide them down the right path. Whether they go with me or not doesn't make any difference. But I need to get into their head and let them know what they have to look forward to. It's a great, I just can't get it through how much money they can really make in car care. I live a lifestyle I wish everyone could live. I really do wish people would understand you can make a tremendous income here that rivals that in the upper 5% income bracket in America.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a living if you do it right. And here's another thing. This industry, especially the paint correction side, I really want to take a lot of credit because I really pushed getting out of detailing. If you want to be a detailer, so is everybody and their grandmother. And if you put yourself in the detailing industry, that's where your customers are going to look at, well, you're a detailer and you're a detailer. They're not going to decipher between the two. So you need to separate yourself somehow, some way. And when you start looking at other ways to call yourself something different, it's going to help you. Hence, I'm a paint correction specialist. I specialize in paint correction and paint protection. I'm an expert in car care. Get rid of the word detailing. I'm bummed out because I named my company the Detailing Pros way back when. We used to back then have to explain to our customers what detailing was.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Today you don't. Everybody and their grandmother knows what a detail is. And if you put yourself into that category, that's where you're going to be stuck. You need to start striving and looking for other ways to separate yourself from the competitors to start growing and offering something special. And when people see value, they will pay whatever you ask. If they see value, I'll give you an example. So I'm on Motor Trend or Velocity or Discovery TV. That's not being braggadocious. What I'm saying is because of that, that's value. I've built a brand and that value, customer sees me on television. They automatically think, oh, he must be the best. I'm going to him. And that's what our detailers out there need to do. They need to find some way to build value in their company, in their way. And once they create that value, the customer will pay them whatever they ask.
Yep.
They just got to create that value, give them, and dropping your prices doesn't create value. It actually cheapens the company. Raising your prices, all of a sudden that creates value.
Yep, you're racing to the bottom. Everybody needs to stop racing to the bottom.
Yeah,
if you want to make more money, is get rid of. We see so many people that their service offering is 15 different services, but they only do 5. Get rid of the other 10.
Exactly.
Offer those 5 services and provide value with those 5. People need to get mentors that have done it and know how to do it, and stop trying to race to the bottom.
Rod, you're on the money. I love you, dude. I love you today. I like you when I see you at SEMA.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for taking the time, guys.
I love it.
If you don't know Mel Craig, you got to get connected with him. You can see he's passionate. He's driven to help you in your business. And so we want to thank you again for taking the time. And you guys that are,
God, I'm blessed beyond belief. You guys, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's super awesome. Well, thank you so much. And, guys, please remember to like, share, and what else? Subscribe. And we'll check you out
all later.
Same time next week.
Thank you, guys. Adios.
Adios.